Yeah. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. How's everything? I think still we are waiting for some more people to come in.
All right.
Is that all right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Three, two, one, and action.
Right.
Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the seminar given by Dr. Kamal Kar on the potential of community-led total sanitation in achieving an open defecation-free world. Welcome to the STEP Center, Kamal Kar, and welcome to our audience. We have IDS members here. We have colleagues from WaterAid, Plan, and practitioners from London, and of course, welcome to the audience overseas. So we're live streaming this event, so welcome to all of you. Dr. Kamal Kar is the chairperson of the CLTS Foundation. He's also the pioneer of community-led total sanitation. Many of you have heard of it, I hope, most of you. It's had humble beginnings in 2000 in Bangladesh, and now is a major approach practiced in African countries and sanitation policies around the world, and also picked up by major donor agencies. And it's now practiced in about 60 countries around the world, and all thanks to him and his colleagues, but he's largely single-handedly taken CLTS around the world, and we're going to hear about those experiences. CLTS has kind of helped break the taboo of sanitation. It's also helped make shit sexy. It's easy and it's possible to talk about shit now, thanks to you, and in all the different languages, and we'll also hear about that. So in our talk today, Kamal Kar is going to introduce the CLTS approach briefly to those of you who are unfamiliar with it, but I think most of you are familiar with it. So it'll be time to then move on to where it is now, some of the challenges, some of the issues about scaling up, and also in terms of how it matures, some of the second and third generation issues. It's been a great pleasure to work with Kamal Kar over the years. He's a great friend of IDS. He's currently here with us working on an EPSRC funded project on waste and transforming waste, and really looking at how CLTS can engage with these second and third generation issues. So over to you now, 45 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for discussion. I know some students need to leave at 1:45, so we'll bear that in mind. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laila. Thanks a lot. First of all, I would like to thank Laila Mehta and the STEPS Center in IDS to give me this opportunity to meet you and speak a little bit on CLTS and what's happening globally. And I'm really, really glad to see that some good practitioners from the field, from Ghana, from the young man from, although from Spain, but from India, and Robert, all of you are here. It's really good. Good to see that. But thank you very much once again, Lala Mehta, because my coming here, this time I came to IDS on a EPSRC project on solid waste management. This is very unique. Before I go into CLTS, which is precisely on rural, I will be speaking about, but on urban CLTS is becoming a major issue where handling that shit, people want to live in clean environment, it does work, but taking that out of the community is a serious problem, and that's where EPSRC supported, funded project on global solution on transforming our waste is working on. And it is a collaborative project between the University of Galway, University of Cranfield, and the University of Glasgow and IDS, and we are involved from CLTS Foundation a little bit. And I went to the University of Glasgow. They are they're trying to make an anaerobic digester, which is a very unique kind, and trying to get a solution out of this, trying to produce methane and using that, the end product, the biodigested material for, conserving the NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, for use in a distance by the farmers. So anyway, that's a different story, and that brought me here. And thanks to Step and Lila for giving this opportunity. But before that, let me tell, in this hall I can see there are about 30 people or maximum, but I'm sure hundreds of you, those who are watching from many countries in Africa, particularly Francophone countries, and the countries in Asia and possibly Pacific, because I received your emails, you're all waiting. So, bonjour, sabah al khair to the people in Sudan, and namaste those who are in India, and habari asubuhi to those in Kenya and other countries. So I can't see you, but if your internet is working well, I'll try to talk about your own countries. Brilliant. So particularly, when I was given 45 minutes time, I thought what to say, because I'm sure many of you can speak 4 to 5 hours non-stop. So this reminds me of a very interesting event when Sir Winston Churchill was asked by a British journalist after the Second World War, immediately after the Second World War, and he was asked, "Sir, could you speak something about the war situation now?" And what was his answer? He said, "Look, if you give me 4 to 5 days, I can speak non-stop. But if you want me to speak 4 to 5 minutes, I have to think 4 to 5 days to say what do I say." So it's very difficult to speak, particularly as Robert says, a person like me who has got a problem of non-stop speaking, Robert, but most of it is all rubbish. But I tried to talk about. Let me ask, how many of you know CLTS? Practitioners of CLTS, could you raise your hands, please? I know many. And thank you, hands down. Those you really do not know much about it, could you raise your hands? Okay, thanks very much. It's half-half. Anyway, that makes it very difficult, because you have to really try to see that so much is happening around the globe, and what is it actually. So I tried to blend these two. But my apologies, Laila, if I cannot manage to finish it in 45 minutes, but I will try my best. Yeah, so what I thought that potential of community-led total sanitation in achieving open defecation-free world. This is open defecation-free world is a dream picked up by the United Nations. And SDG in 2025, they're trying to have a completely open defecation-free world. And this terminology they have picked up from CLTS. That's great. And they invited me 3 years before in one of those SDGs meeting in Geneva, in Stockholm, where they were thinking about this, and this was picked up, and this is beyond the MDG sanitation this will be followed up. And I told them that this is really great that this terminology open defecation free community did not exist that much the way it is existing now. The whole focus was on counting latrines. But since the time CLTS came into, became a reality, we count more open defecation free communities than counting latrines. So in this, I will try to talk about, oh sorry, I should do this, okay. I have organized it that what is the sanitation scenario today? Is it just a vague word, open defecation free world, or you can still go there? And what has been the initiative so far to meet this challenge? And then what is CLTS little bit? What has happened so far on CLTS using CLTS? And what the challenges ahead, how we can move on to this. So like this. So you see, last 10 years, 2 billion gained access to improved sanitation globally. This is according to WHO, UNICEF. And 2.3 billion, although it is more than that, had access to water from good sources. But still 1 billion defecate in the open, and they live in 10 countries, mainly. Like the country I come from, the number of open defecators are more than double than the 9 countries put together. 630 million of my countrymen defecating in the open. 850 million Indians have mobile telephones. You see, defecating in the open, talking on a mobile phone. You can see that, sometimes it's like a. So, if you still think that people are poor, it's a mindset question. We have seen in India people go to defecate in the open by car. So, it's a whole mindset question. 797 million practice in India, which is, and you can see more than double of 229. So every 15-second kids are dying. See, horrifying reality is, in some countries, open defecators are increasing in number. You can see in Nigeria, India, this is happening. But India's sanitation sector expenditure is one of the highest in the world. But sanitation scenario was terrible. How come that happens? It's a whole question of the approach. We're spending money, but it's not happening. India is still a country where CLTS is a serious trouble there, because the enabling environment that is needed for CLTS to grow is not there. And one of the fastest growing economies of the world, India, is losing 6.8% of the GDP. If today my country is clean, sanitation, we have got great hopes in the new government which has come, great hopes. And we are going to really expect things are going to happen possibly, that if the policy changes, it's a different country, definitely. Because that is, you can imagine that 630 million defecating in the open, and that is every hour 42 to 43 kids are dying. These are UNICEF data from a kind of a lower estimates. So poor sanitation, which is a pathway to poverty. I'm not going to talk about that, but national poverty, household poverty, individual poverty, household, the women's drudgery, it's a lot of things actually. And globally we lose trillions of dollars, on this, putting all these things together. So now some of the quick data, you can see that this is Africa, Southeast Asia, these are all slightly older, but you can see this one, the diarrheal death, distribution of diarrheal deaths. As you know, the diarrhea is one that causes more than what malaria, AIDS and TB together kills in a year. Diarrhea kills much more than that. So, but it's a silent killer. Most of the victims are under 5, so there is not much of hue and cry. Imagine millions of mothers losing their kids, children, those who don't see their 5th birthday, and so much of loss and drudgery and pregnancy loss. I mean, it's a whole lot of things, but this has not changed greatly yet. From 2000, It is changing. In Africa, quite a bit of things are changing, but not greatly, really. We have to go a long way. I wanted to show you this. If you do not know that if you have got somebody who is 5 meters long in your system, or 8 meter long, if it came from pigs, its Taenia solium could be 5 meter long, staying somebody, your guest staying inside, a persistent guest, but there is no symptom. If you eat pork which is not properly cooked, it might so happen, and this pork, it can get into your system, and if you are unlucky, it will penetrate and gets into your brain, and it dies there, it forms a cyst, and you start getting migraine pain, eventually might lead to epilepsy. 30% of the global epilepsy is due to neurocysticercosis. So you do not know, but ELISA test you can check. So this is also happening. The loss from this to the livestock and human health is huge, enormous. I'm not going into that, but the other angle, undernutrition, typically occurs in early childhood. And many of these people, there are studies, in the developing countries, the millions of kids getting 4 or 5 bouts of diarrhea before 5 years of age, permanently becoming, like stunting, poor mental growth, poor physical growth, and all these things are happening. Why? This suppressing appetite, they don't want to eat, impairing absorptions, and diverting nutrients to fight out all the other disease and kind of things. I'm not going into all this detail, but the high percentage of children in the developing world still live in environments exposed to high level of fecal oral contamination, eating each other's shit. Did you meet any doctor anywhere who says, diarrhea patient comes to you, prescribe, gets clear from the diarrhea, recover, go back to your situation, eat shit, pick up diarrhea, new fresh infection, come back again? Do you know any doctors who write the medicine and also writing, please don't eat shit? No. I was in a nutrition seminar, they're all talking about nutrition and this and that, and nutrition and shit and this and that, but nobody is talking about, along with the good nutrients, don't eat shit. Because people think that everything is fine. It is not fine, actually. Eating shit is a problem, so all the good things that you are doing, agricultural production, processing, cooking, and eventually eating, and that absorption and assimilation is gone. Look at that, what happens, this is the gut, and in that system, this is how here, this villi is, where we absorb the digested food. And when this gets infected, these are the places, where we get the ramification of the capillary, and your food that you eat gets digested. But if there is constantly, it is infected, it tends to become flat. And you can see that so much of surface area is reduced to so little surface area. Absorption is gone. So you're doing everything. Your child is not getting it. It's all going out. So this is precisely a thing. This is a very, very important thing. You can see the average height for age of children in a country, and this is the fraction of household in a country. Look at this, India. A lot of food, a lot of hardworking people. People are giving all these things, but height. Why? Because that same thing. Change the scenario, and you see, open defecation explains cross-country difference in child height. I had been to a country called Timor-Leste recently, world's highest stunting. Lovely, beautiful country. It used to be part of Indonesia. World's highest level of stunting. And the ministers are all realized that, they will become short people. And same in our parts of the country as well. So you can see the open defecation explained 54% of the international variation in child height. GDP only explains 29%. To be poor economically It is even worse, far worse than poor sanitation. You can still fight poor economy, but that will drag your economy down, 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 down. It's silently, silent killer. So, so stunting is not a nutrition issue. It is a development issue. So, in development, we really need to understand these things, because in a pot, if there are so many holes and you keep on pouring it, but it's keep on leaking, you got to plug the holes first. And that's one which is silently happening in this. So now I'm talking about CLTS. What is it? Very quickly, particularly those friends, those who are not very clear, I mean, do not know about it, maybe heard about this. You know, the traditional professional mindset so far, and in the whole problem that I said on sanitation, poor sanitation, subsidize. People are poor, give them money. People don't understand, teach them hygiene education. They are bloody fools, idiots. Tell them how to construct latrines. Engineering. But didn't work. You shit and I give you money. Didn't work, really. It didn't really work, you know. Millions and billions of dollars have been spent by international agencies so far in the past traditional, you know, approach to sanitation, hygiene behavior, and etc., etc. You know, there are countries in Africa, I had been there. Toilet blocks were, you know, purchased from France. They were airlifted. Cement bags were airlifted to some countries to make nice, beautiful sanitary toilets. Doesn't matter, you know, didn't work. What happened? Due to huge spending money, this kind of things. This is from a municipal town in Calcutta, near Calcutta, where I live. Beautiful toilets, $300 toilets, constructed by a project supported by DFID, Department for International Development. Look, it is used for everything excepting for the purpose it's built. Yeah? So, and you will see in the landscape, this is from Yemen. This is supposed to be a pan, toilet pan, where you squat and sit down. This is used as a wall, put some bricks, you know. So, Andres must be doing many, well, he's an engineer here, so must have constructed such kind of things, but maybe you are lucky you did not do it before so far, you know. But you see them, you know. And Ada, you are also an engineer? No, you are an engineer yourself. No, you are not. Good. Okay, so, you know, these are the kind of things you see dotted in the landscape of all over the world in African countries. So this was built by plan. After 4 months, that's the story. It is nobody's toilet, actually, you know, and it's a, and you construct and you say, well done, everything has been done. This is from Greater Accra region in Ghana. Look at that. Beautiful. When you walk inside, you might get a heart attack. It's horrible, stinking, smelling snakes inside. Nobody goes, you know, and beautiful toilet constructed because that ownership is missing. It's not there, actually. And this is even interesting story. This is a very interesting story. Some of you might know, this is in a village in Ghana where we went and we saw the CLTS was triggered in the village and people constructed nice toilets. You can see mud wall and everything. After 6 months came UNICEF. They gave these free sand plats. Well, I'm talking about UNICEF people all over the world, don't worry, because you are still the champion of CLTS. I know it, but it's an old story. So those who are listening, you know, they must be thinking Kamal must be saying, oh, he's not, you know. They are champions in the world today on CLTS. And then they abandoned that one, came to this one. After 1 year came an NGO called World Vision, gave that free one. So they left this one and went to that one. So when I went to this village, in front of every household there were 3 things, you know. And the people from the nearby village came and said, sir, we have done this. When would you like to give us this one? Because we are waiting for that one. So then I thought, my God. So this is called institutional open defecation. I call it institutional OD. Community will stop their shitting everywhere, but institution will not do that. These institutions do not know who is doing what. So that's what is one of the major challenges of scaling CLTS up throughout the whole world. And that is one of the very serious bottlenecks for getting towards the ODF world. But we are getting there. A lot of work is going on. And community-led total sanitation is totally led by the community, planned by the community. It's a collective behavior change triggered by the community. Outsiders, our role as an outsider is to facilitate a process of analysis by the community, and they realize it's a whole learning exercise for the outsiders. We don't go to teach or preach or anything. The first time realize, oh my God, we are shitting so much. We are bloody eating each other's shit. It's a realization from inside. And then they decide to move on. And that's what is collective community decision. It's not outside agency-led preaching or something like that. It's a decision taken by them and implemented by them. How it happens, and the natural leaders emerge from this. That's a very, very important aspect of this. How this happens, like this is a picture from Sierra Leone. You can see all the mothers are there, and these are the households. And there she is showing that who defecated in the morning today where. Who defecated where, putting some sawdust. So the whole village map, is scattered with sawdust. Then they think, a lot of laughter and everything. Oh, I did there, you did there, everybody putting all these things. And they realize, oh my God, what's going on? Because more than discussion, more than verbal, it's more visual. It is appearing on the ground. And you can see this is happening like this. And these are the households, and these are the pile of shits. Then they move on to the next step. How much a person defecate in a day? How many kilo? Oh, people laughing, they said, you eat more, somebody eat more, and they shit more, etc., and all this. Then they write it down, and somebody wrote here, 18 kilo. And then they moved around, and this is the highest. Everybody clapped him, well done. Look at them. Look at the face of the man. I didn't know he was the village chief. And everybody clapped him, well done, chief. Eat more and make it to 20 kilo or something like that, And this guy looked very seriously. And within 2-3 minutes, he stood up and he said, after this, I'm going to dig my pit latrines, and I'm going to make sure that nobody in my family is going to the bush. And in Africa, if chief says something, it has got a different meaning. So that happened. It's called triggering. The triggering comes maybe during the mapping. There are different other tools. We use it. But the first time, he had 3 wives and many children, so it was 18 kilo. So but as a matter of fact, these are the stories, people know, and from there they move on. This is from a village up in the Altiplano in Bolivia, in the Andes Mountains. You can look at the mothers, and when they were asked, when it's raining in the middle of the night, do you go such a long distance to defecating the bush? She said, no. I go behind your house and you come behind my house and we shit there because, it's loose motion, it's emergency defecation. And they're putting yellow powder everywhere. Look at the faces. Now they are worried. The mothers are worried. Oh my God, our kids are growing on this. So these are different tools that we use. Raw shit is brought and the food is brought. And you just leave it. Flies do their job. They, between the shit and but it has to be a fresh shit. And you open the bottle, and you give the bottle, nobody drinks water. And you show them, it's clear, why don't you drink it? They say, no, there must be shit in there because we saw. But it's not that they didn't see it before. They see it all the time. Then you ask them that, do you throw your food if there is a fly? They said, no, we eat that. We eat shit. So this is getting in there that we have been eating each other's shit, and so much of shit is going in there, and it is spreading. So this is a senior government officer facilitating the children in Sierra Leone and doing that, and immediately children move into procession. Stop open defecation, and we don't want to go outside, urging their parents to construct latrines and everything. A lot of things happens. I'm not going into the detail, but you can go to the website. There are many videos in the YouTube. One of the very good ones is the BBC video called Clean Living on the methods of how CLTS, different methods. You could see that. Clean Living Part 1 in Bangladesh. They did it about maybe 10 years before. Now you can see that these are senior officers and engineers. Who is teaching and who is learning? You can see the villages. So they take the role and they say, we are going to stop it. Come after 1 month and you will see that there is no more shit outside. The whole idea is, as I told you, in the earlier conventional approach, the assumption used to be people are poor, give them money. They don't understand, teach them, preach them. But here in CLTS, assumption is maybe they are poor, illiterate, but they are human beings. And no human being want to live in shit. Nowhere in the world. And that's working. So the moment you don't teach them, you facilitate the analysis, mapping, matrix, I mean, this all that transact work and food and shit, triggering moment comes. And once it is triggered, they said, we are going to stop it. Give us some money. They will always ask you, give us some money, help us. Then you say, thanks very much. Carry on. We came here to learn. We are glad to know that there is one village in Nigeria where people want to live in shit and would like to eat each other's shit. They said, no, hang on a minute, we don't want. Then it moves on from there. It becomes a demand-driven initiative rather than a supply-driven. You know, there are a lot of things, you know, local innovations you can see that has happened all over the world. You know, how local toilets emerge, and in a very short time, within a few hours even, few days, few weeks, the whole village become open defecation free. Nearly 2 to 3 months, but very powerful triggering. You can have seen it 2-3 days even. And fascinating things. So I'm not going into detail. You will find a lot in the websites. These pictures are from Madagascar. Let me tell you, in Madagascar is one country in Africa. Last week they celebrated their 10,000th OGF village in one program, FAA program. And they are challenging everyone. Come and look at our quality, check it. How this has happened. In only 3 years, 3 years time, one of the best countries, CLTS large-scale program coming up. From CLTS Foundation, we have undertaken a study. It's called Promising Pathway, which will be out soon. But initially, the whole power of this, you know, why this has happened, was one of those was the natural leaders. I will show you the last slide in my presentation after some, where you will see, time-wise? No. Okay. You will see that the CLTS, what we have learned recently from our presence in more than 35 countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, we are learning that CLTS scaling up must go cross the boundary of the frontline government staff or NGO staff into the natural leaders, to the hands of the natural leaders and community consultants. And those who emerge from the CLTS ODF villages, and systematically a lot of work is going on how to organize them, how to put them, bring them together, and that has happened in Madagascar. Large number of community consultants. So CLTS Foundation's initiative, you know, I mean, this is not a right place to show it, but these are precisely, you know, I'm trying to tell you that we have really understood one thing, that institutionalized our global, you know, initiative on strengthening capacity and hand-holding. Just training CLTS tools is not enough. We have learned it. It's not enough. Because just otherwise what has happened, there is a serious attempt to reduce CLTS into a bunch of triggering tools, which it is not, which it is definitely not. Post-training, hand-holding, CLTS Foundation Global, you know, different institutional collaboration. It's really fascinating to see that UNICEF, the single largest actor of sanitation globally, used to supply hardware. You saw the pictures. Their international strategy, sanitation strategy, is CLTS. No household hardware subsidy, but empowerment. And they have emerged as one of the champions in Africa and many, many countries. And because of that, World Bank, they used to give subsidy. In Ghana, in many countries, they tried, but they got the resistance from the national level political leadership. They said, we want your money, but not the way you want us to spend it. We want to, you know, use it for CLTS community-led. World Bank had to change their approach, and the same thing. EU, in charge, European Union. So there is a massive transformation going on. And UN agencies like Global Sanitation Fund in Geneva, I got mails from them in the morning. I'm sure some of the countries they have been listening, that they are supporting CLTS and they are fully into it and trying to collaborate and bring the government, major actors of sanitation and the executing agency of Global Sanitation Fund, those who implement CLTS, trying to bring them on a common platform and working on that institutional aspect. Because we have learned enough that it works, CLTS works, but 10 villages, 100 villages, 500 villages, or talking about the whole district, whole region, and the whole ODF nation. Otherwise, you miss the point. To do that, you have to have leadership, champions at the highest political leadership of the nation. And we are learning in that area quite a bit now, and we are trying to support. Okay, CLTS has revolutionized the mindset, and the moving, counting from ODF, counting from latrines to ODF communities is the thing. And now we have been saying, no more, don't count ODF villages, count ODF or open defecation free districts, regions. We all are dreaming for ODF nations to emerge first, and then there will be someday ODF world. But unless we have a roadmap and a strategy for a ODF nation to emerge, you will never be there, So that's what we have been learning, and we are trying to see how we could do that. CLTS as a global phenomenon, introduced 5 years after its innovation in South and Southeast Asia. It's in Africa, but Africa is zooming up. Over the last few years, growth of CLTS in Africa, 66 countries introduced or rolling out CLTS across the whole world, 16 in Asia, 5 in the Pacific, 40 in Africa, 5 in the Caribbean and the South America. Small scale, different ways. We call it CLTS. In Spanish, it is called Santolic. Is there any Spanish speaker here? Okay. Saneamiento total, de comunidad, Santolic, S-A-N-T-O-L-I. It's called CLTS. And in French, it is ATPC, l'assainissement total piloté de communauté, or something like that. It's ATPC, but it's exactly the same translation. It's going on. Great champions in CLTS, in Africa, recognized internationally. Chief Macha, and there are many, at least several ministers, senior ministers at least in 6 countries emerged as national and international champions. So this, as I told you, the term ODF, open defecation free, emerged from CLTS for the first time in the history of sanitation. And UNICEF Planners Guide Sanitation Drive to 2015, UN Water 2015, that's where you will find it. Shift in indicator measuring the progress from counting latrines to counting ODF communities. And please remember, those who are practitioners of CLTS, it is an outcome-focused approach. It's not that what tool we have been using or what is the indicator, this and that. What is the final outcome on human health? Is the diarrhea reducing? Is the number of patients in the local hospitals reduced? If the quack doctors finish their livelihood, gone, nobody coming there. These are the issues. And Mimi Khan did a study with us with the CLTS Foundation. She is here. She was an ex-water aide and a specialist in hygiene and public health. And she wanted to look at the lasting behavior change, what's happening and its impact on CLTS in some of the ODF villages in Ghana. Okay, behavior change started receiving the priority over household level infrastructure building. It used to be always infrastructure. It's not, it cannot be. I can give you a brush for brushing your teeth, and we see that you are brushing your shoes, with the same one. Because there is no need, there is no understanding. 20 months left now before the MDG. So a lot, I'm not going in there because these are for the different countries at the highest political level. Government can do that. And the quality is becoming a serious issue on CLTS. The more you talk about, let's move fast, the greater the chances of deteriorating quality. That's also happening as usual. So, and pushing the technology. Technology assessment and technology refinement is the issue. A lot of farmers, a lot of communities all over the world have their own technology of simple pit latrines, and they know how to really move on that. But we must not destroy that in the name of sanitation marketing or this and that, or dump some technology and spoil that. We need to know how we could ensure a nice blending of these two. So, do you know what is the common amongst them? President of Kiribati, he's a graduate from the London School of Economics, is in the iconic figure on environment. A taxi driver in Tarawa in Kiribati. The two ladies, two mothers, and coca farmers in Ghana. Deputy Prime Minister of Timor-Leste. What is common? All champions of CLTS. All champions of CLTS. Talking about CLTS at a different level, at the national level. You know what he did? When I had a discussion with him, he is, and it's a small country of less than 1.5 million people, yeah. And then helicopters are, airlifting the facilitators from one island to the other island, another island. They said, make these islands ODF, small islands. Gentleman there, the Prime Minister said, don't tell me about this rubbish, CLTS. I don't want to see this CLTS thing, the shitholes, because of the bad implementation of CLTS in that country. When I was called only 2 years back, and I had a discussion, and I told him, there was a whole discussion that, and he said, there is a point. I said, sir, can you give 80,000 Timorese a toilet tomorrow morning? He said, no. I said, can you give it to sir, these toilets next month? He said, no. I said, perhaps you might take 1 year, 2 years. Yeah, but we have money. People of Timor did not give me vote to make the shitholes. The CLTS, I don't like it. I said, that's fine, sir. Then I asked, would you have any problem if in the 2 years' time when you give every household a nice toilet, if they save 5,000 children from death, premature death? He said, no, why should I have a problem? I said, that's what I'm talking about. Then I brought a couple of natural leaders from the ODF villages, work done by WaterAid. And they said, last 2 years, we don't have anything. We didn't have any diarrhea, nothing. There was no calling ambulance or carrying the kid from the mountain tops and, on the way he's dying. We didn't have that. Then the president said, there is a bloody point there. I said, that's what we are talking about, the simple toilets, And he said, I want to create 20 senior top brass came to CLTS Foundation's, our workshop in Ranchi in India. Today it's in the National Sanitation Strategy. But you need that person at that level to convince, and they're rolling out. Only 13 districts in the whole country. Only 13 districts. And one district by district you become ODF, bring your money there. It will be demand driven. It's not supply driven. So that's what is the story. So we are talking about through CLTS Foundation that low-hanging fruits like Timor-Leste, BNLS country, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, Swaziland, all less than a couple of million people, less than 1 million people. So they could all achieve ODF. And we had last month a meeting of the ministers meeting through CLTS Foundation, UNICEF, and the ministry in Namibia, in Windhoek, and they're all gearing up. They're trying to say that, what can we do? Okay, I think I'll move fast because don't have much time. But look at that. Some of the Eastern Southern Africa sanitation population practicing open defecation in 2011. Look at that. You can't read them, but these are the countries. And this is South Sudan, Somalia, like that, and then you can see that. I don't think you can see that, but I'll give you these things. Now, population using unimproved sanitation in millions. Percentage of population using improved sanitation in 2011. There's a whole great change, in Eastern and Southern African countries. These are from UNICEF's data, that a large number of people are shifting. Probably this slide is much better. You see, in Ethiopia, 2042,735 population in ODF environment they're living. It's 2 million. And in Somalia, just starting, and they're going on there, you know. In Kenya, 950,000. In Kenya and in Malawi, 450,000. In Zambia, 512,000. Madagascar, it is 227, although, but, sorry, it's a touch screen. Right, okay. Yeah. So, very difficult to assess how much, because every day, every month, things are moving, more and more villages are becoming ODF. Of course, the whole story is not that sweet and some fantastic. There are challenges of quality and verification and all that, you know. But definitely, the diarrhea, the bouts of diarrhea and other kind of things are reducing, definitely. Look, this one is important, that sanitation, halving the population without access to sanitation, our goal 7. If we don't reach that one, impossible to reach this one. Major disease, especially diarrhea, and the goal 4, under 5 mortality, and these are all interrelated. So that is so very important. But there is a serious disconnect amongst the ministries, between the ministries, those who use, those who implement sanitation and those who are in the health in many, many countries. Not in all countries, yeah. So total ODF population 5.5 million. You know, ODF population Eastern Southern Africa. It's a 2 years old, but you know they are still working on it. 2.5 years old, you know, this one. But and you can see the countries. Ethiopia. Look at Ethiopia. It's quite a huge, and Kenya. So much drop. You see, it's again in Ethiopia. If you look at the story, interministerial collaboration coordination is really, really good. Plan International is playing a very, very important role, and Plan is an official agency for training, capacity building and hand-holding in the ministry with UNICEF. Initial stage when I was introducing that in Ethiopia, it was a hard task because Dr. Seferau, who became the health minister, I have had many, many meetings. UNICEF was one side, the government had a 19-point health program, and CLTS was moving on. So there was, but bringing all those institutions together and putting them in setting the same target and kind of a same mindset is the name of the game. It was not easy, but you can see that once that happened, they are really going up. So it's also possible in many other countries. Was in schools, I will skip this rather here because it's also a serious challenge. You say that all the children in my school, they use toilets. But what happens when they go back to home? Do they go back to bush? It's not the right way. So was in school, so we are trying to revert that one, that all the ODF villages, in between there is a school. When the kids come in, they demand for a toilet because they don't go to bush in the school. But my kids, using toilet in the school, at home, going back to the bush, that's not the right situation. So there is a great, the opportunity to do that. What have we learned? That CLTS works and is the most effective program tool for accelerating sanitation access. Not my slide again. UNICEF thinks that. Validation of the national CLTS strategy as a part of the large sector strategy. Then ODF protocol, human resources, partnership with community level. I was telling that the natural leaders and community consultants, involving them, it's very, very important. And financial resources and a robust monitoring system. These are very, very important issues. And just very quickly, a recent study which has not been released, but the findings of this one, this study was carried out in Mali. And they found that a total of 121 eligible communities were sampled and met the criteria for CLTS communities. And here, the very interesting thing is that preliminary findings, large and statistically significant effect on height for age. I took UNICEF permissions to use this, but it is not out yet. They straight found that. It's a real, authentic study, and they found that. But somehow, they did not find a great, significant, correlation with the CLTS ODF villages and diarrhea. I don't know about that. So there was about 26% reduction in stunting and a small reduction in the number of underweight children. So this is a study from Mali. As I said, challenges are more institutional. What are the challenges? They are more institutional rather than communities. Champions need to emerge, involving the highest level of the political leadership of the government. CLTS must move beyond the boundaries of the frontline staff or the NGO frontline staff. Natural leaders, community consultant. Madagascar has more than 1,500 practicing natural leaders and working as community consultants. Interesting. CLTS must not be reduced to a bunch of triggering tools, which is far more than that and goes beyond sanitation. It's on livelihood, in education, on food security. Systematic work is going on. If you go to the website of CARE, CARE, you will find a paper called From Dependency to Emancipation. You will see how different things has happened. This is going on. And serious engagement with the practitioners on the field and linking them with the highest level of the government decision makers is essential. Because the more we reduce the gap between the reality on the ground and the top decision makers, better we are. And fresh from Burundi arrived this morning. UNICEF Burundi sent me this. There are beautiful pictures. Look at that. I thought I'll show you. And I told UNICEF, send them a mail this morning. I said, I will show it to the audience. This is fantastic. Look at this. Meaning, aesthetics. It's my latrine. Painting. I use it. It's my place. Yeah. So, and I stop it here, and you will see these are the websites, the CLTS Foundation, CLTS Foundation's website, and this is the community-led Total Sanitation IDS website. And Naomi is here, and you see, you'll get a lot globally what is happening. And I'm sure that you have a lot of questions. So thank you very much. I stop it here now.
Great,
thank you
so much. Great, I'm sure there's lots of questions, so I'll just open it up. I have lots of questions, but I'll keep mine. Anybody wants to put
many regular sort of water and sanitation projects, the issue is not the enthusiasm. Sorry, the issue is not the enthusiasm in the beginning. But the maintenance. So how do you maintain sort of enthusiasm when people see results? Maybe the urgency disappears, or how do you deal with that? And the second question is, how do you deal with communities? We have a lot of transit, a lot of bus stations. So people who don't feel that this is their community, their food they're shitting in.
Yeah.
to respond to that?
No, I think,
Should we take some more?
shall we take some more questions and then we can respond?
Can you just introduce yourself, please? That would be great.
My name is Priyanka. I'm a master's student here at IDS. I was wondering about the experience of India with CLTS and the problem of how water might be something which is very politicized in some villages where, there's still organized around caste lines, and water resources are also divided along caste lines. And there are parts of Gujarat where, there are communities that clean toilets all day long and don't have the water to wash their hands afterwards. So I'm wondering if CLTS has any insights as to how it may circumvent or navigate these caste-based politics of resource division, or how it may even transform these differentiation through this sort of work.
first, you said that how do you maintain the enthusiasm? How do you maintain the enthusiasm in the maintenance, which is a mundane, boring job, which is definitely true. But you see, whole CLTS approach is you don't maintain anything. There are certain factors that triggers that enthusiasm. It's a whole basis of, revolving around enthusiasm. Community's collective enthusiasm that we must stop it. Stop eating shit. That's the beginning. Then as it goes on and on and on, a bit of peer pressure comes up. Then people, Kamal, you can't shit in the open. You don't have a toilet, but you don't have a toilet, you use your friends or relatives' toilet. You can't just go there. And till the time you have your own toilet, it moves on there. And then that maintenance, gradually, when CLTS begins, generally there are pressure, the pressure of usage of a toilet, a few toilets that exist is slightly high. As it goes on and on, the more and more toilets comes up. Even in one family in Africa, you will find one family never had one single toilet, now they have got 5 toilets. Because they say that my daughter-in-law is going to a toilet, I cannot go to that one, so I have that, the whole. So the maintenance become easier when the pressure of the toilets is reducing, and that enthusiasm, and these are certain elements, but enthusiasm is maintained also. How? I will tell you. Because in CLTS, we develop a village which is coming up as a ODF, open defecation free village, and that is systematically used as a learning, training and learning lab for the surrounding neighboring villages. Constantly people are coming. Nobody is, and if they see that there is a dirty village, not well maintained, so the message spreads, oh, these are bluffing and all kind of things. So there are different ways, but the main thing is that if the toilet, and my last slide, beautiful painting and all kind of things, there is a whole pride and ownership that this is my toilet and this is, so it gets into the, into the family and into their culture. But that we call it post-triggering follow-up, and we call it post-ODF activities. In the post-ODF activities, mainly the natural leaders and community consultants, they come to play, and they take that role of this one, that who is not following, and that's for few months. It's not a long time. And then kids from this village going to the neighboring village to meet their uncle's place or somewhere, and they are asked in the morning to go to the bush because they still defecate. They all start crying. And the mother said, I want to go back, because they don't have the practice of going to the bush again. So it melts into the society and that system. But this is also, as you said, that maintenance falls down. There are factors, number of factors into it, that why it's a floating population sometime. It's huge question of environmental vulnerability, storm and flooding and kind of things, then they have to build. So there are factors, which also causes high water table, etc., etc. Okay, so when the toilets collapse, CLTS for public places, generally now CLTS practitioners in many countries, they do not declare a village ODF if there is a bus stand and people are shitting around, or there is a weekly market. People come from different villages and shit around, they don't declare it. Because the public places are also considered as a part of the village. And if you look at that handbook, there are, in the early days of CLTS in Ethiopia and some other countries, people constructed toilets. In Bangladesh also, they encouraged pay and use, and then some public toilets. But the people they were asked not to use those toilets, not to shit around everywhere. So, but this is where the government and the local government and the commune council and others, they come into play and they can support. But that's why I said that the ODF community and the local government, there is a link up that needs to build up, and these are all these activities come into the domain of post ODF activities. Because it's not that community will do everything, and in post, and if it is a public place, public toilet, we can always give money, government can spend money and do that. It's not that one individual. So that's that. But there is a lot I can talk about these examples, but I will, maybe we can talk afterwards if you need. But then Priyanka's question, Priyanka, good to see you that, you are the one who were in the email, isn't it? Priyanka Joshi, what's your name?
Jain.
Priyanka Jain, yes. So, Priyanka, let me tell you first one thing, that looking into water like a exclusive, narrow focus microscope is doing more harm than good. Looking into untouchable this and that in a community is also risky, could be risky. But I fully agree with you in our country that untouchability and all these things, upper, lower, these things has problem. I'm bringing examples from, this is called, I'm bringing examples from this district in Andhra Pradesh, I'll tell you in a second. Closer to Karnataka, same thing, and also Hetoda district from Nepal in the Terai. But let me tell you the first point, that looking into water, in Ghana, in Accra, in the greater, Accra is the capital, in greater Accra area, people saw that, the health department saw that, they found really very clear, 10, 15 years before when the cholera outbreak, there was a cholera outbreak, it used to spread like this. But today, when there is cholera outbreak, like an electrifying speed, it's boom. Why? And they realized that over the last 10 years, government has done so much and given water to everybody. You are giving nice water, good water, without sanitation. They pollute the water and drink, and everybody getting a cholera. So very fast. And Ghana has achieved 93.4% or 5% their access to MDG water. They have gained their access. They are fully close to it, 100%. Sanitation less than 17%. So that's what I was telling. The two ministries sat together. Two departments of a ministry. And I said, without water, if you are doing sanitation, you are doing more harm than good. So then they are getting into a strategy that which are those places where there is no sanitation but we have done water, which are those places where no water, no sanitation, and which are those places where there are ODF but no water. So if you did water and sanitation hand in hand, you gain much faster and more than looking into it separately. Coming back to this issue of caste, which is a very serious issue. I remember this is Robert Somesh was the district magistrate, and what was the district in Andhra, do you remember? I'm trying to recall the name of the district, I'm not getting it. Somesh in the early days used to be the deputy commissioner. But anyway, I'll tell you that. It's not getting, I have the slides, and I was there triggering. When there was a minister of rural development, government of Andhra, this man was brought to, the districts in Maharashtra, Ahmednagar and Nanded, to see CLTS. He was excited, and he said, come on, let's do it. This is all about 10 years back. We went, triggered CLTS. It's a huge village. And the first thing, the lower caste, those who live in the outskirts of the village, they decided to make it ODF. And all the upper caste, they used to live in the center of the village, and they used to walk down there to shit in the morning, outskirts of the villages. And those people said, tomorrow morning, if you bloody come here, we'll see you with the sticks. They said, no, you have got pigs and this and that, our shit. They said, nothing doing. You bugger's not coming tomorrow. So the first time they were challenged, and they became ODF faster, much earlier than the upper caste, where the upper caste live. Then we didn't know. After 3 months, we came to know from the block development officer, there was a serious incident. One of those, but the lower caste people, they come here to the upper caste area for working as a laborer. And this labor, he worked, and he was given a glass of water and they give something, some rice and something, puffed rice. And he said, madam, I'm not going to drink the water that you are giving. He said, why? He said, you guys sit in the open. We don't. My God, and that became such a issue. And in that night, in the whole village, Gram Sabha, the young guys, they came up and they said, we cannot have any worse serious slap than what we received from our lower caste. And they said, we refuse to take water from you because you bugger shit outside. And then they woke up. So it always happens that when you bring it together, I didn't show you the slides from Hetoda. Right on the map, there is separate groups standing this side. We are landless. It's a whole social dynamic that happens, you know. They said, landless gather together. They said, we are landless. If anybody is sitting on your land, the landed people's land, everybody point the finger to us. Although we don't sit in your land. We go outside and we do it on our work. They said, we must stop this humiliation. Somebody must stop this. And then poor caste and this and that. So there is a whole social dynamics that happens in that part of the world. In India, Nepal, not so much in Bangladesh because, you know, it has really, of course, you know, landed this and that. But it is very, very seriously there. But I can tell you, if this new government, we have all hopes, if they change this subsidy, you know, the last government, you know, they increased subsidy 3 times in the last 7, 8 years. You sit and I give you money. And the CLTS is a graveyard. India is a graveyard of CLTS that could be, unless there is a, the whole, what you call, enabling environment that supports CLTS to grow. As I said, 850 million Indians have mobile telephone. There's 630 million defecating in the open. So, but all this will be taken care of the moment there is an enabling environment, and these issues in India, there are great organizations, institutions, facilitators will change it, even within the government. I don't think that is going to be a serious problem. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
No.
We've got a couple of questions. Ian, do you have a question? Andres? We take the two together.
Oh, hi. I'm a volunteer from the local water aid branch, and I just want to say thank you very much for today's talk. It fits in perfectly with the current water aid programmes for next year over gender and sanitation, so it's going to fit in really well. I do a lot of work in local schools, and we show stuff about CLTS, even though it sometimes feels quite embarrassing to some people who do it, but we do it and we show that. And one of the questions that always comes up from children the age of 7 and 8, is the whole question about protection and utilisation of waste resources. Because we show materials about the continuing use of the waste products, right, from the community-led total sanitation toilets, right, and they're fascinated by that. How is that handled at an economic level? I mean, what are the issues that are emerging about waste management and the utilisation of waste resources? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So we've got a question there on waste. Andres.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamal, also for the presentation. And I wanted to make a few a brief comment to the question of Priyanka, to share my experience also, because I did some field work on the CLTS in India.
He did his PhD in India on CLTS, working in Madhya Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh.
Yeah. And in one block in Madhya Pradesh, where they were doing a very good job on CLTS, they came across something similar to what you were saying. They were triggering, but they felt that there were some divisions within the village and that not everybody was engaging. And it was across caste lines, but more across political divisions, so more like the people that were behind the village leader and the people that were supporting the candidate from the opposition, or different reasons, but they were divisions that were hampering the progress. And the facilitators, they started to think, so what can we do about this? And they had their meetings from time to time to learn. And then what they were doing was to do more work on the pre-triggering. So before going to the village and doing the triggering, really understand what is the nature of the village and see, okay, here we have 2 religious communities, we have this division between this party and this other party, or we have a hamlet. And then they ensured that in the triggering, but later on also in the village committee, they ensured that there was people from all the different communities. And even they try to make those that potentially would be opposing, to make them the champions. And they said that was working well.
Great.
And yeah, sorry, and yeah, and the question quickly. Yeah, it was on what you mentioned, Kamal, about moving up the sanitation ladder. That it was important to do technology assessment and refinement instead of outright sanitation marketing. Yeah, if you could elaborate a bit on that, and I think this links also with the sustainability issues. And I don't know if you had some thoughts on the recently published plan report on sustainability and what are the implications.
Great, good questions. Yeah.
Hello, sorry, I'm going to stand up so you can see me at the back. I'm Serena. I'm currently studying at the London School of Economics, but graduated from Sussex last year in development. Thank you very much for your talk. I had a couple of particular points of interest with regard to evaluation and how long-term evaluation is being carried out to see over a number of years what's being maintained. Additionally, sort of was mentioned at the beginning about urban CLTS, if you could talk about what's happening there, and just with regard to this gentleman as well about the management of waste product and how that's being incorporated into the programme and the trigger. Thank you.
Great, yeah, we're really having some of the second, third generation challenges come up, issues that are very close to my heart.
Yeah, close to. Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Thomas, M.A. Gov. My question is related to the last speaker and the one that this gentleman raised. It's a good initiative, but I'm just thinking. Nigeria.
Oh, from Nigeria?
Yeah.
Okay. Which part of Nigeria? Which state?
The southeast, Ebonyi State. Ebonyi State.
Ebonyi State.
Yeah, in the southeast. Okay. And I read, I spent some time on your website yesterday, and I discovered that Nigeria is actually having a very big challenge. So it became an issue of interest to me. But what came into my mind was, how would you manage in the long run, in the long term, how are you going to manage the waste that will still be generated at the community level, at the various community level?
Okay, just very quickly here, and then we'll move. We've got two more minutes.
Thank you very much. Roger Williamson, visiting fellow. My question concerns the design of the toilets. I was talking to a UN habitat specialist, a Chinese man. He said that the Western style with water flushing toilets and mixing urine and feces is actually a source of huge problems. So can you say a bit about that? It relates to the waste management issues as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Now over to Robert, and then if I may use my role as the chair and ask one question.
Yes, well, Kamal, thank you. Inspiring and energizing as ever. I don't know how you keep it up. I wanted to ask you about diarrhea and about the Mali study. And I'm really glad that you got permission to share that, because I've been denied it in another context. But I mean, it's very dramatic. Just to repeat, what they found from a randomized control trial, I mean, it was well done using CLTS against a control. They found no change in the incidence of diarrheas, but they found a 26% decrease in stunting. And this is just one study. It may be atypical, but I suspect that it isn't. I suspect that two things are going on. One is that people tend to report that diarrhea has gone down because they know that's what we want to hear. Yeah. I suspect that goes on, but the other thing may be the environmental enteropathy that you mentioned, because that is continuous and continuously debilitating and extremely difficult to measure and extremely difficult to assess. And what I'm wondering, and this is way out perhaps, but there may be people watching who could mull this one over. What I'm wondering is whether people in communities can in some way assess changes in the energy and the activities of their children when they have total sanitation. I mean, casual observation, I'll finish, but my casual observation is that you just look at children, and you see children in an ODF community are usually very lively and playing, and you go to one that isn't, and they tend to be lethargic and listless. And could families themselves, could people themselves in the communities have some way of monitoring this?
Very good point, and that answers his question, and that's why I said that I'm not very happy with this plan report. Exactly, you have answered, Robert, that one. That's why the plan report failed very seriously. Should I answer? Or, yeah. Okay.
I just have one question, actually. I mean, it's been many years since we've been working together on CLTS, and I remember when we did the project on the potential, on the scaling up. And I mean, obviously things have really moved leaps and bounds, and that's great, looking at waste, looking at some of the challenges around entropy, around stunting. But one thing where I think the CLTS Foundation still could work better is actually moving away from really looking at intra-community dynamics more. I mean, I think Priyanka mentioned some of the caste stuff. So while CLTS can really transcend some of the caste issues or it still sort of builds on certain idealized notions of community, I think. And you know, you're talking about the maintenance of toilets. Who is maintaining the toilets every day? Who is doing it? It's the women, right? And it adds to women's work. So how much are you at the local level really trying to challenge some of these gender and caste and social stereotypes? How much are you actually trying to look at issues of, let's say, manual scavenging in India, in the Indian context, which is really important? And that ultimately also has a bearing on sustainability, because if you don't really look at those issues, sustainability at the local level, at the institutional level, is not really going to happen. So I think along with the waste question and maybe the environmental health question, I think really addressing some of those issues are some of the challenges for the next decade of CLTS. Yeah. Really actually going back systematically to some of these places to look at some of these more tricky issues.
Sure. Excellent. First of all, let me say that all the questions that you have raised are unique, very, very interesting. And if you don't mind, I would start answering the questions not in the manner they were asked, but maybe shall I come back to the point? It's an observation Robert said, and club it with Andres, because Andres wanted me to speak a little bit about the moving along the sanitation ladder. When you trigger CLTS, it's precisely pit latrines, shitholes. You know that they're going to collapse, and they need to collapse. Because by the time they collapse, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months have passed. Silently, what has happened, the hygiene behavior of the community, the women and the children and others, men, they don't want to go back to the bush again. When the toilet collapses, this is gone, there is a demand for investment and building better toilets. And that's where comes the question of connecting with the technology, availability of the materials and this and that. That's the general phenomenon. There are special questions, others, But how we work there, the technology assessment and technology refinement, not moving back to the technology prescription and top-down technology prescription, or, the technology transfer. That's where a lot of work has gone in, and I did not use some of these slides, a lot of these slides, Andres, and it's very good work going on, as you know, in the WEDEC conference where I was giving that keynote address in Kenya. There was a fantastic research going on in Malawi, and it is the Engineers Without Borders. They are doing a lot of nice work, using technology assessment and technology refinement. What is the community's existing idea? And what is how my technology can fine-tune this instead of changing it totally. So that's where the sustainability, it answers the sustainability question as well. So I did not speak on that, but I can speak a full 45 minutes on that, because that's where in the Finland, where we had a couple of years back, we had the International Dry Toilet Conference, People came from all this technology from all over the world, and they have put me in the scientific screening committee of the next year's Dry Toilet Conference. Papers have started coming in, but I can see there's a lot of good paper on this. Different situations, different things, a different scenario, agriculture, non-agriculture, high water table. There is a whole lot of science in there, And as you know that I come from agriculture, I'm an agricultural scientist, basically livestock person, and got into all this. So it's very, very interesting there. And all that Arbaloo and other kind of things. I'm not going into that detail, but your second question, which you raised, I thought that you will not raise, because I'm not very happy, and I'm going to say I brought it to the top brass of plan in working. I said this is a rubbish report. It's a good job done, but it has totally failed in getting into the methodology, the report. And it says in its 5-paragraph executive summary, it says, following on the 5 indicators of the study, 92% of the planned countries, ODF villages, fell back to OD, open defecation. And I told plan, this is more than enough. You stop using CLTS in all the planned countries. They were like, they fell down from the chair. They said, why we didn't see this? I said, this is what is written. And the report is coming in the website. This is seriously damaging to the CLTS. Then they said, well, this has to be changed. This is a strong line. I said, okay, that's fine. But I don't mind you fail these 5 counts. As Robert said, go to some ODF villages and go to an OD villages. You can see the children are kicking around, somehow. But there are maybe sit and here and there, not everybody washing hands. What plans report failed to really highlight totally anything on, even if they failed on the 5 counts, what is the impact on the health? Have they went back to that diarrhea in the square one? The same incidence of diarrhea? Same household expenditure on diarrheal disease and etc., etc.? There is not a single line on that. I remind that those who did that study did a very good job they did on many other things. I would like to remind them that don't reduce CLTS on counting on these few things here and there and see, reducing CLTS into a bunch of tools. But look at it as an outcome-focused approach. Outcome at the human health level. I'm sure in this hall, I'm 100% sure many of you will not, and you do not always wash your hands with soap before you eat. I'm sure. I can guarantee. But do you get diarrhea every day? You don't. So it's a intercombination of, hand washing was one of the indicators there. They said no sheet, no hand washing, this and that, so they felt, what's that? Did they go back to that whole, health where they were before ODF and today? No, perhaps you need to look into that. And then differences between, and that's what I think Robert was trying to say, that we need to look into that children are playing in dirt and shit. Number of flies reduced substantially. In our science, we call it sterilization and disinfection. I think Mimi Khan will appreciate sterilization is no bacteria, nothing, no spore even. But disinfection is using phenyl and this and that, bringing it to a safe level. That doesn't mean there is no bacteria. There are bacteria. But bringing it to the safe level makes a huge difference on your health. So if you say that you didn't wash your hands with soap or ass, so you're back, what does that mean? You got to look into the health component of it, the health outcome of it. But again, it draws back to that simple pit latrine which has come up in many countries. Droughting, not drought, but semi-arid and other kind of things, where dry pit latrines perform fantastically. And people use the pit latrine and throw some ash on it. So shit and ash, shit and ash, shit and ash, the moment you throw ash, immediately you are stopping the growth of those larvae, those flies, which becomes, they come out, from there. And the degradation is faster. It absorbs the moisture and it reduces the smell. And then shit and ash and layer, after that biodegradation, we know in agriculture that it adds potash, more potash into that compost. And after 6 months, it becomes very easily, handleable and all that. So if you eliminating water and the solid and the liquid itself is the first thing, but it has got some issues around community involvement in the ecosan. So that's why they have been struggling, and the initial cost is very high. It's not a basket of choice. It's a kind of a prescription kind of things. So they are working there.
So in
But
the AT reactor, you can actually mix both, right? And
exactly. So this is what this work is going on, but that's in an urban where handling so much of waste is a problem. So that's what, and so they are trying to use this in the University of Galway. I went inside the lab, and they are trying to create. They are very close to it now. The first level of anaerobic digestion of that whole stuff, and that produces methane gas and kind of thing. So, and the final product, could be quite a bit of it could be safely released to the environment. Otherwise, untreated urban sewerage, they are being in many countries in India, released into the Ganges, into the rivers, along the mountain slope. Terrific environmental hazard it is causing. But we need to really get in there and involve community. Okay, I don't know, is that your question? How do you handle these pit latrines? But these simple dry pit latrines are not possible in peri-urban areas or in urban areas where the space is a problem. That's where it is, you really need to connect it with the underground sewerage system, and the government has to come in there.
And collection is a major issue.
And the collection is a major issue.
Obviously, in collection, you have a lot
Yeah,
of contamination.
absolutely. Yeah. And Robert's point, I fully agree with you, Robert, that we need to really look into that. Never thought about that, and that would probably answer that plan's question, that, looking into that maybe they are not using washing hands everywhere, or maybe not, it's really truly fly proof. But even then, what had been the impact before and after, before CLTS and before ODF and after ODF? That needs to be seen. Okay, coming back to the Nigeria, from the Cross River State, from Calabar. Where you said? Calabar. You're from Calabar yourself. You will find me there in the next couple of weeks. After a couple of weeks, you will find me there. If you are coming, are you a student here? Yes. So you will not be in Calabar in the next couple of weeks. You want me to go with you? I will go. Come on there. Great. See, I tell you, I met the head of the state and also Benue State and Cross River State. These Benue State and Cross River State doing absolutely fantastic on CLTS. And Calabar is, Cross River State perhaps going to declare as the bloody first state in Nigeria which is ODF. Absolutely fascinating work is going on there in Cross River State. And so I wish, what are you studying here? Governance and all that, you do it fine, but don't be on the ground, on the sky, but come down there to Calabar and meet some of the people there. I will give you the names and their email and telephone addresses. You will really learn real true governance there, And if you, with the right governance, if you could make your state as an open defecation free state, nothing like it, It's $1 million gain, as a matter of fact. And since you said governance, the people, those who have done great work, the local leadership, from down below to the state level, it's all absolutely fascinating. And the way they have involved the natural leaders, community consultants, local NGOs, so it's absolutely fascinating. But your question, is that on the sustainability? What was your question? Managing the waste. Managing the waste, yeah. Now, the managing the waste in the city of Calabar, do you know the Calabar if you Google, it says Calabar is the cleanest city in the whole of Africa? Yeah. Do you know that? They used to clean the street 2 times in a day, morning and evening. It's a high rainfall area. But you go to the sea coastal areas, untreated sewerage and everything is just released as it is, causing massive. Apparently the streets and everything looks so fine, but it's really, that is where these are urban, peri-urban issues. But government has to come in there, and the elected people's representatives, ministers, they need to understand. But going further off on the way to Benue State and other states, when you go along the forest and you cross the forest, you see absolutely fantastic villages, clean, because they have space, they have become ODF, absolutely fascinating. But on where the population density is very high, it's a macro issue, major issue, and I really did not discuss that here. But it's again, I could, in a short one sentence, I could say it is related to institutional OD.
No, but if they have flush toilets in villages, you still have a problem of the waste.
No, flush toilet, flush toilet in many countries.
If a lot of people, if it just goes into open drains, I mean, I've seen that in loads of villages. So then there is an issue.
In peri-urban.
No, even in villages.
In villages,
still have a problem.
In villages, generally what they do, it is confined in a septic tank. And the septic tanks, desludging of the tank becomes a problem, That becomes a problem, and the desludging and,
Desludging, collection. So, I mean,
collection
even in
and all that.
areas, waste can be an issue. It's not just a peri-urban or an urban issue. And I think it would be great if, I think it's important to acknowledge.
Absolutely, it is important. I mean, I fully agree with your point. It's a very, very serious point, But we need to learn and we have to work quite a bit on that, definitely. And this project is, as again, I said, if this could, crack the nut, there will be a lot of things will be happening probably in the next phase on biodigester, which is a very low cost, and it is producing some energy. You can systematic, yes.
I was just going to say on the Nigerian case,
Please.
A lot to that. I'm also Nigerian. She's got a point on verification.
No.
Just to help Kamal get on with the other questions here.
Somebody
there are
goes.
other questions
Yeah.
coming up. But basically, in
Anybody
terms
else?
of waste, if it's talking, I can just use your
Uh-huh,
question.
yeah,
In terms
yeah,
of waste, what happens mostly in the rural areas,
Yeah. Yeah.
and particularly around the coastal areas, there have been real challenges in terms of how to contain that because of high water table level issue. And then all sorts of lasting designs are also being worked out between water and the other partners concerning the rest are all working together to address those challenges back home. But really, in terms of the rural sanitation promotion, there isn't really a big challenge because there is space and people are able to move from one pit to the other. So it's not a big deal. But where the problem really is with regards to the urban, especially in the high water table areas like the coastal states like Cross River, as you mentioned. And that typically is to have a septic tank that requires emptying, which doesn't happen very often, and it's not very well organized. The sector in terms of handling and treating the waste from the urban area is not very organized. So that still remains a challenge. Yeah, but mostly CLTS in Nigeria has been very, very rural based. So in terms of CLTS in Nigeria, we're not confronting the issues at the urban yet. Yeah, thank you.
That seems to be a universal challenge in terms of the urban and peri-urban challenge. You wanted to say something about verification?
Yeah, verification. And did I answer your question a bit? No.
I think you've answered all.
Yeah.
You answered, yeah. So now I would like to raise, somebody raised, it came into the questions that quality and verification, that you trigger a very top high quality CLTS, ODF, etc., but then sliding down, and where does it go and what happens is a big challenge. And verification, certification, there had been a study on 3-country study supported by DFID. This was the initial early few years of CLTS, which was, this study was carried out in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, and India, and 3-country study, and looked into that whole verification, ODF, and then what happens. It is Shit Matters, written by Laila and Cinemobic, edited by them. But you will find, I wrote the foreword in this, and there are fantastic stories and examples of the early stages in detail study from India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. Very interesting to see this one, and you will find a lot of answers. Some of the answers said that they did fell down. They did fall down, but up to certain level, and definitely that was not from where they began. But there was a drop going up and down for various factors and different reasons, and how that impacted the community and what really happened and what are those reasons and causes for the sliding down, sliding back, we will find in there. And also the plan study, which did that study in Sierra Leone, in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Malawi, I think. In Ghana, huh? Sorry? Uganda, not Malawi. Uganda, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, and Uganda. No, sorry, Uganda, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, and what's the other one? Kenya, yeah. So that looked into the CLTS and ODF and sliding back, but that sliding back, defining sliding back, they did not define that sliding back up to the impacting on human health. So that's what I found a serious weakness of the whole study in the methodology, precisely. You do this, you do that, that's fine. But I used to defecate in the open, I used to do a whole lot of things. But now I am not doing certain things, but doing many things. But is my health what it was here, and is it the same here? Or there is a change? So that needs to look into. And that's what is Robert also throwing on light on that. We need to really look into that. Maybe some study will do it. But yeah, the community and gender dynamics, you know, oh my God, that's a very, very important. I did not throw any slides on that. I have been speaking in some places, CLTS and women. It's a women's movement. I don't mean that gender means only women, it's men and women. But CLTS, natural leaders, community consultants, and the first hit of CLTS, because of open defecation, the gender category that receive, they are maximum victimized more are the women and the children. And it is much more than health, but their dignity, their privacy, and all other issues. And they don't allow these things to, again, get back to this one. So the more natural leaders, women natural leaders, the better. And many, many countries we have seen that. But men come into this under the pressure. You know, in what was that? What is that state in Ghana? What is that? Volta region. In the Volta region, there's a whole song, "No toilet, no love." All women shouting, "No toilet." You are there, Mimi? "No toilet, no love. No toilet, no love." You know, the men, you don't want to sleep with us. Absolutely forget it and get buggered off. If there is no toilet. So all over the world, a lot of things happening because they don't want to get back to that horrible situation once again. So that's one thing. But men also supporting it, but also trying to, block it and this and that. There are a lot of things, but we have. I'm not going into the detail, but the issue of gender is very, very important, and the children. I have got 10 different videos, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, different things. If you just see it, absolutely fascinating from all over the world. And the children have been contributing enormously in the CLTS movement all over the world. And okay, I think I should stop.
We should stop. We can carry on informally. I just want to thank you very much for a very inspiring talk. Little wonder that he was the top 100 thinker of the world a few years ago. We know why. I mean, it's really unleashed a whole movement. And of course, lots and lots of challenges ahead, but lots of excitement. So thanks very much for sharing your wisdom, your insights with us. And for those of you who can stay on, we can, of course, carry on talking more informally. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.